There we go. So as we said, there it is. There's the Northern Realms on blue coin, right? And it's going up against that Skellige list that Tailbot is running. That's the Genineth list. And yeah, so I guess our suspicions were correct here with the lead off of Northern Realms. There's a lot of proactivity with those bronze cards that you've got going on there. As the Mauler gets tossed away and exchanged for an Enchantress.
Live mulligans here in the spectator mode here as Tailbot proudly representing Shoop on his windowsill. I see you.
Got to get those little marketing. Available now at the PlayGuide store. Get your Shoop today.
Well, for a long time, though, people were dying to be able to purchase it. Now you can just get one. Now it's a hot item. And here we go. Demarcation's going to lead this off. Magic Lamp as a stratagem here. Being able to have extra bodies on the ground for potential boosted effects such as Visagird, Scytheman, and Temple Guard. It's always beneficial just to have the extra bodies on the melee row.
Tailbot, prior to this match, saying that is his good side for the camera, so he's opting for the angled approach, which gives him a little better, visual for everybody to appreciate. Radovid's Royal Guards, again, on the back row with the formation ability, giving it the boost. And when it's boosted, it does have an inspired effect.
Absolutely, it does. Oops, sorry, I got a little crackle on you there, Flake, but that's okay. As Tailbot is going to be making his first move. Radovid's Royal Guards, one of the most solid opening plays in the game, really threatens to make the next drop much more difficult to deal with, and in itself requires removal, but still represents a certain amount of points even when the boost is knocked off. So it's really low risk, high reward addition in Iron Judgment. And just a reminder, this is the first Gwent official tournament since Iron Judgment. And that includes Merchants of Ophir. So lots of new cards being played and lots of old favorites like the N-Crate Longship leading off for Tailbot here in game one.
Yeah, that's such I mean, it's just a very simple play. Players are not necessarily going ahead and committing much that is over the top in terms of dropping cards onto the board. I mean, the N-Crate Longship is a solid opening play. You see it all the time. The Radovid's Royal Guard, same thing, usually followed by a Mauler or something along those lines, but nothing really, nobody's really dipping their toe into the pool all that deeply right now. It's just the standard procedure of 1 into 2 here. Also just letting everybody know, if you guys have thoughts on this tournament, hashtag Gwent open if you want to go ahead and share your thoughts about some reactions, some plays, what you'd like to see, etc. And don't forget that the drops are, if you are hanging around for 4 hours or so over the course of the weekend, over the tournament, stick around. So it's not the standard procedure, but stick around. You will get those drops. It's you got to stick around for about 4 hours or so. So hang tight because they coming.
They are coming indeed, as we are still getting to the beginning parts of this game here. Both players looking to play their bronzes, try to just get that extra little bit of value out of each and every card. Both players used to playing the value game. I'm very interested to see if Tailbot is going to be able to execute the turn, like the single turn Genineth. Like will it make it to round 3 with second wind still activated? I doubt it, because that is one of the win conditions for this deck, as the Royal Guard gets hit with a stunning blow, stunningly blown away here, as Demarcation is looking to make I would probably consider a Temple Guard here, but just trying to make sure that things stay stable here. See if it would be a good opportunity to continue past the 7th card on blue coin.
Yeah, it's not a bad play. You flip the Djinn there, rub the lamp, Genie comes out, you drop the Temple Guard, get a nice 3 in a row, and connect for a good boost, topping out the value for the Temple Guard there. You're not really committing a whole lot. You're on the blue coin, so you do have to keep in mind that you don't want to cross that, cross the Rubicon of cards where you're at a point where you're committing too much, and then you actually have to defend the round into, without sacrificing too much card advantage. Passing at an opportune time is often, it's a lost art at a certain point. So, as again, that Longship has just robbed the Inspire effect of the Royal Guard in the back row. Just holding court there on the melee row. That N-Crate Longship is it's a tough cookie to stare down, right? I mean, every time you drop in It's just a little scratch, a little haircut off the top to just shave away some points that would otherwise,
Hmm.
you know. But it feels extra bad for a deck like Uprising, which likes to be in the green. So playing that Radavid Royal Guard in the back row, you just immediately negate that Inspire effect it would otherwise have the benefit of, being
Yeah.
being on with.
Yeah, both factions kind of deal with their own counterplay. Northern Realms being boosted tends to avoid Bloodthirst. Bloodthirst tends to be annoyed by boost. So usually in both situations, it just gets a little, little less value. That's why it's going to be such a granular value game, I think, in this matchup. Every order, every ping counts. Things being saved. Demarcation saying, I will keep this on the board and I will always threaten my reach with boosting and with damage. And if you're going to want to deal with this ballista, you're going to have to remove it eventually. So always keeping that order on available really makes it always always a threat, always a reasonable inclusion. And then if it's going to be multiple hits, is it getting 2 for 1? Will that reach allow Visigurd to kill a super important engine?
Hands off the votives.
Temple Guard front row, again, takes a little off the top there from the Ankret Longship, but it does connect for 3 boosts in a row. 1, 2, 3, and another boost from the Royal Guard, which is suffering from a little bit of bleed, and the Ballista is still locked and loaded, but finally fires the shot, takes a shot on the Ankret Longship straight away in the opposite melee row, and suddenly a 10-point lead, I guess 9 with the bleed effect. And Tailbot is still has some cards to commit. I don't think it's too much of a scary picture for Tailbot here. He still has some cards that he's not afraid to commit. I feel like the other, the boats in the back row there just pinging away could be a decent deal just to sort of commit a couple cards over here, because he can, with that extra bleed, you can drop the boat, and should Demarcation pass, he just dropped the other boat and you're ahead by 1, and that should be all she wrote. But again,
Oh, sorry about that.
no, you're go for it.
No, I was going to say he could also be. I was just about to say, as he plays the longship, he also could be looking to drop the longship to be able to go for a long round with Wild Boar of the Sea, being able to bail him out, having that extra strength on red coin. He does have the ability to bring even these boosted units down to a state where Wild Boar would be able to probably take on any pass with the Royal Decree in hand. Now, should Tailbot at any point get ahead, this would be very scary for Demarcation, as we know Gedonith is able to produce an explosive amount of points very quickly with or without Ermion.
Yeah, that scenario, again, can be triggered multiple times just by the fact that you can get that sort of 2-for-1 play with the leader ability of resurrecting a card to get the second trigger, not necessarily being susceptible to any removal of that scenario. You don't need to be afraid of a bomb heaver if you get all your value in sort of one foul swoop here. But again, this could be a good pass for Demarcation. He's sensing that he doesn't want to commit other big cards, but opting instead to go drop the Enchantress, which drops 2 points of vitality onto that Ballista. Again, that Ballista possibly could go back up to into the green at 4, but that Longship in the back row is most likely going to take care of that. But an 8-point lead, effectively 9 with the vitality point, and Tailbot's got some work to do here.
We're halfway through the round from Demarcation's point of view, having just 5 cards left here. Now, it is probably one of the safer areas to pass in if you are going first, as you will at least have 1 card to play before going down to 7 to protect yourself from bleed or falling behind. Northern Realms tends to commit in different ways. I mean, looking at this hand for Demarcation, he does have a fairly good hand to commit. He's able to create multiple units, no copied units for Voimir specifically, as in he doesn't have access to anything for that reason. But the reinforcements would help with that. Visigurd could help take out any extra threats, or he could just look at the fact that he is ahead on even cards right now, and Tailbot would have to go down. But again, giving the game to Skellig a second wind is very scary. It's a very scary decision to make.
Oh no, definitely, and that's where you have to evaluate Demarcation. Is if does he want to play that potential long round? Does he want to pass here, toss Tailbot the keys and let him drive round 2 and see what happens, or does he want to continue to fight and maybe commit some of those big pieces? Opting rather,
gonna give it, gonna make Tailbot go down the card.
Yeah, just pulls the shoot on the round and sort of takes his pass where he can, and opting to just hang on to some big pieces. I guess he still had reinforcements he could have played if he wanted to, but there are probably better options in there. Looking at Demarcation's, looking at his list over here, lots more humans that you might want to get a flip on with,
Yep, he missed all his Caravan Vanguards specifically, and Drog as well. So Voimir isn't going to be played here. Visigored is far too valuable. And in the case of Bloody Baron, again, these are just big, important pieces that not necessary to commit here. Tailbot now in complete control of the game. The decision to bleed will be here. Wild Boar of the Sea is still available on Royal Decree. Ermion in hand as well. Yeah, there's the complete scenario. Should Ermion be played here, but that would require Tailbot to go into the round specifically as he gets rid of the Freyas. You always want to make sure you have a Freya in the deck for Ermion later on.
And still no Caravan, and that might be concerning for Demarcation because, having that easy duplication effect of those cards and just flooding the board with units that you can later on flip with Drog it's an important factor, especially if you have Voimir and get a lot more value off Voimir. But unfortunately, he's just not finding them, and that reinforcements is oftentimes the best place for that reinforcements to connect with is that that Caravan on the back row, getting the bonded ability, the boost, the extra body. It's a good thing, right? And unfortunately, he's just not finding that. Oftentimes, it's just you never want to really hunt for bronzes, but that's such an important piece.
So in this situation, Demarcation can potentially use Scytheman, Leader, and Reinforcements to have a somewhat decent Voimir, as Tailbot is deciding to push into this round, which means that could be the best possible way to get value from Voimir. We don't know how far Tailbot is going to push, but we do know that he does have excellent access to really annoying cards. He does have a Freya for the ship, and he has Ermion as well to play. He has the extra Freya in his hand right now, so his Ermion play specifically might be looking for, it would just find a Golden Froth, I imagine, or the Giga Scorpion. We didn't see that either. So Ermion's definitely playing for a lot, definitely playing for big value here, and is going to force Demarcation to play. Won't be able to establish anything due to the removal of Stunning Blow, Giga Scorpion. It's going to be a tough position here. Tailbot's going to be able to own the board for a little bit of time here.
Question is how much is Tailbot going to be driving this round here? And
it's going to find the Vanguard with Decree. Okay.
And that's that always feels bad. You don't want to use a big provision card like Royal Decree to go find a low provision card like the Caravan, right? Like you're paying 10 provisions just to go ahead.
It's representing a lot of points though, because of what Reinforcements and Voimir is now able to produce, and then that follows up, of course, with the Visigored. So I think that this one actually is magnified and probably the best use. Gives up Falbor, gives up Adalia. Adalia becomes a later worse draw, and that's something Demarcation doesn't want. But I think in this point, aside from the option of relying on Scytheman, which he won't want to do, going for this is probably the best way to get that value.
Oh, I certainly agree with you that you had to do it because you don't want to. It's a matter of when you're being bled, you don't want to sit on cards that would otherwise get value over time and be problematic for you. So I think that getting that card out and then having an option with your reinforcements later to make it, to connect with the Caravan, get those cards rolling as well. You don't want those cards to just haunt you later on, as again the Longship in the front row is just crushing some of these points and just shaving them off. And as the Crow Mother comes in, drops the 2 birdie birds, and suddenly, the bleed is still on. But the good news here is that Demarcation did get ahead by a point, so that's where you want to be.
That's twice now you use the term bleed, and if you are not familiar with the term bleed, Flake is not talking about the status effect. He's talking about in the fact that Tailbot is in a position and control of the game, forcing Demarcation to continue to play cards whether he likes it or not. It's essentially bleeding out his resources. So it's a term I've heard the question a lot, and just in case there's no confusion here, we're talking about Tailbot bleeding Demarcation out of resources, and that's what he has to do now. As Demarcation takes the lead with the Vanguards, which forces Tailbot in a position to he will have to take a lead or lose last say, which is not often worth it. But when you can play the full Geddoneth combo, you may have enough points, as that represents about 33 points immediately from an empty board with the leader and Ermion into Freya, into a Druid. That's the
Yeah,
whole combo. If you've never seen it before.
it's a filthy prospect to just have to think about, where it's just in that one foul burst, you're just staring down a 33-point gap like that. But the pressure is still on, and like you mentioned, the bleed of round 2 is a matter of, that's why round 1 is so important in many cases, because you want to protect your assets for a round that matters, for that deciding round 3 in most cases. And if you're giving your opponent round 1, you're also giving him the option to just squeeze those resources out of you to their liking. Now, to their, to your benefit, perhaps they might push too hard, and you might be able to regain that card that you're losing. But oftentimes it might come at the cost of very important pieces. Drog comes down, and now he means business. As you can see, the leader ability comes well to protect some of those cards. And now you have 4 of those Revenants on the back row, as Drog has made the full transformation. Again, the Kedwani Revenant has the order of dealing 1 damage. If it should kill a unit, meaning a death blow, it will spawn a clone of itself, a 3-point copy, a 3-strength copy of the Revenant. So they can do work, and there are some relatively low strength targets. For instance, the Ermion on the back row that seems fairly simple to go ahead and convert on.
Well, I feel like I could see the choice that was being made there. Do I play Voimir right now, get the boost, make my Scytheman amazing, hold on to Drog for later, or do I play Drog and use my leader to stay ahead? You'll notice that he just wanted to get that 1 point ahead, but actually sacrifice part of his leader. Now, this is the kind of thing Tailbot might be happy to see, in that the leader is being used, as he just continues to play cards here, now allowing Demarcation, as you said, to pick off Ermion and get a lot of extra value, and get a lot of extra value from Voimir, because now that the Vanguards have been played, reinforcements have been played, and Drog has been played, there's not a lot of other options to get that good value out of Voimir, and this might be the best time to do it. Ping off Ermion, get another Revenant, and then protect.
Yeah, this is again a scenario where Tailbot can perhaps convert some of those bronze cards in his hand, like that stunning blow, into bigger pieces out of Demarcation's hand. There are still some bronze pieces that Demarcation could commit just to stay ahead by a little smidge there. But eventually, he might have to commit bigger pieces should Tailbot want to continue to throttle down and continue to squeeze some of those pieces out of Demarcation. But you still have a Scytheman, you still have a Mauler, so plus a Voimir here feels really good as well if you just really want to nail it shut. But there's still some small pieces that Demarcation could commit, and it's not going to really feel that bad. For instance, that Mauler. Exactly. Even though it took a 1-point clip there, there's still a 5-point benefit to Demarcation in this case, including a 1-card advantage as well.
It's a difficult spot that Tailbot has found himself in, because he will have to either cede the last say, which again, because of Geddoneth's point value, it could be enough. He may be happy with what he's seen. He has seen Drog, but he hasn't seen a bigger cards such as Visegird, which do represent on the right board a ton of points, but 2 points of the leader as well does make Visegird a little more awkward to play later, and doesn't represent the threat of removal that Demarcation will need. So I think it is going to come down to, will I be able to climb this giant mountain of points as Tailbot hits the pass and we go into round 3?
Yeah. And big pieces still left in the deck, I believe, for Demarcation. I don't think we've seen Philippa yet. I don't think we've seen Falibor yet. Big
Definitely
pieces.
Falibor.
I might have missed it. Did I miss that? No, there's Falibor.
I definitely haven't seen Falibor is what I meant to say. Sorry, what I was thinking was the Royal Decree when it was used. I immediately went looking to see what the opportunity cost of that was. I mean, Falibor seemed like it was the biggest one, but grabbing Philippa would have been nice. It's not so bad, though, to have Voimir and something that makes a copy, such as Adalia. He's looking for that other Vanguard, though.
Certainly reroll that. Ooh, well,
I don't think it's going to matter, because Tailbot's going to make that scenario just happen.
This is what we were talking about earlier, right? Is that you have the advantage of having a scenario that can just go ahead and complete its entire journey in one turn. Cards like Bomb Heaver are just dead weight in your hand. And in this case, I mean, a Dahlia onto a Mauler isn't all that fantastic either. Not really connecting with much. There's still the Philippa in the deck. There's still the Anseus in the deck as well. Those are massive control elements that are now just swimming in those remaining 8 cards that Demarcation essentially has no access to.
Yeah, the draws hurt him, and he had like we talked about before. I don't think either of us think that the Royal Decree was a bad decision there. But that Royal Decree cost him his best card later, and it looks like there were a couple of them in there that would have made this a little bit easier for him. It's not over yet, of course. Tailbot does not have last say, but he does have a lot of points. And of course, there's going to be a lot of stuff for the Maulers to maul. They're definitely protected here.
I guess one benefit, if we're looking on the silver lining of having those maulers doubled up versus the caravans, I suppose, is the fact that you can set up with the Falibor to maximize your Falibor value, bring that Falibor to a full 13. You also have, I suppose, the Voimir can go ahead and boost them on the front row. This is obviously not your ideal scenario for Adalia, Queen Adalia, but I mean, you gotta make do with what you have and hopefully clean up the problems here. There's the Ancrate Longship again.
Going to keep on making the board more and more attractive for Wild Boar of the Sea, which will be probably not the final play. It's really going to be Tailbot can choose to play Geddoneth at any time right now if he wants to be using his leader for that. With Bombheaver in Demarcation's list, he will have to choose to do that or lose points.
So as we see here, the Mauler, again, protected by the shield, but that's a little bit late to the party because the next Mauler that hits the board is going to be getting tickled by that boat. But I think that Demarcation just wants it gone as the Falibor comes through. Not the full value, you're losing 1 point off of it, but I think that over the long run, leaving that boat there is even better. If you get rid of it than to have it there and just continue to rob you of points, and not just points of the damage that it's doing, but points that you might otherwise be getting with your final your Visegird or your leader ability into the Scytheman. But there is a light longship coming through that comes as a bonus piece to those 4 points of bleed and more damage, and that is just piling up now.
More damage, more Wild Boar, extra points. That shield might be a little annoying. But otherwise, I think that Tailbot definitely won't be hurting for points. And what Demarcation is going to have to do is get the absolute most points possible out of his combination of cards here through maximizing Visigurd's boost, maximizing the reset on Baron, and hopefully getting Voimir to trigger on at least the Maulers. But, for having card advantages, this is going to be very close, if at all, for Demarcation, because we know Geddoneth is just a sheer cliff of points.
There might be a scenario where that Baron will have to connect with his own Falibor. If the Falibor takes all the bleed plus the double swipe from the Wild Boar of the Sea, it's going to go down to 1. And as long as it survives, that Baron could actually reset it to 7, representing a 12-point Baron, which is, that's not that bad, honestly, assuming that Tailbot really doesn't get much boost value from the rest of his cards. But we shall see what happens. There might be an opportunity, but given the fact that there's that boat in the back that might just snipe the final point and just take that out of the equation. And looking at the Demarcation's hand, is this the option right now where you want to go ahead and perhaps drop the Voimir? But Hammond comes through, negates the points off of the Mauler before the order ability can be used. It is row locked to the melee row. So unfortunately now the Mauler is in the back and he's got 2 points of bleed that he's going to have to deal with. So that Hammond is probably the best you're going to get out of that.
So I had a thought in my mind, and I was just trying to hold on to it. It was I have lost it now. But I was going to be talking about, yes, it was the fact the Mardrome is a decent target for the reset. So, however, depending on what the Mardrome hits, because it does damage and boost, it's possible that resetting Falibor ends up being more points. But definitely, Bloody Baron held on for that final stage of the scenario where the boosts are going to be located.
Yeah, we're going to see how this shakes out, obviously. I mean, the problem for Demarcation now is that his Bombheaver, I don't think is going to get much value, obviously, given the fact that Geddoneth comes through with, an appendix of other additional plays that have followed it immediately to get the rest of those triggers. And I mean, the Visigurd doesn't exactly have much inspiration on the board to give it much, firepower. And then the Bloody Baron is your final say to maybe just equalize one of the cards, but it doesn't look too great. Now, Demarcation does have a 9-point lead, but 3 of those points are negated from the bleed. Here comes more bleed, and it's just making it so nasty for that Wild Boar of the Sea now, as at the end of Demarcation's turn, that's going to be 4 out of 5 units plus I
He's
guess
gonna take the leader now. I think he's probably going to use the boost on the Mauler and take the Scytheman, so he has a chance of getting some bullets in the chamber for Visigurd. I think it's the only chance, but I mean, we're looking at that choice to do that or to play the Bomb Heaver and just give another body to get damaged by Tailbot's longship in the back.
No, you have to do it. I think you absolutely have to do it, just from a perspective of maximizing the value of your leader ability, because next turn you're going to have the Mauler or Voimir are going to be in the red. You can't really bring them into the green with the boost, so you have to use it now. There's another boost from the Bloody Baron in the back row. I don't think he's afraid of really all that much in terms of getting it deleted off the board, but I think you absolutely have to use your ability there, as he does, boosting the Voimir, dropping the 6-point Scytheman, and the bleeds come through. And unfortunately for Visigurd, it's not going to look too pretty, because I believe this might be the Wild Boar of the Sea turn.
Yeah, this is going to get Wild Boar of the Sea is going to get a decent amount of work done here. I believe it hits for 6, 7, 8 points. It's 12 points altogether right here. You could do not much better. Oh, I'm also not counting. I guess you could knock the armor off with the longship and make it a little bit better. But generally, though, the Wild Boar is going to miss on some of those armored units. So this might be the best time to play Wild Boar, because you're going to be playing Geddon at the last. But I guess there's no reason to play Geddon at the last. If you could get any more points with Wild Boar, you go for it. So it looks like Tailbot is going to be playing Wild Boar last.
What world do we live in where a scenario is like your big finish play, right?
This world. And we've been in this world for a while. I think Geddoneth has only ever dropped in popularity because of people just not playing it.
It just feels like, well, you got an Osro. Well, I have a 3-turn chapter play that I can do in one big sweep. As you can see there, the birds come by, the murder of crows, followed by the Crow Master. There's a boost on the boat, and it might actually come down to it, McBee, where, as we can say, remember that. So the long ship is only 4 above its natural ability, but he chose to actually reset it.
I mean, it's probably the most value you're going to get from Bloody Baron. Visigurd going all the way, trying to get, again, we're playing the granular value game. This last card here, Visigurd in the back, but does mean that he's going to get just that extra point. But this does prevent that extra damage from Wild Boar. But here comes the giant finisher. So 2 finishers back to back for Skellige. What sweeping demarcation out to sea here.
Play it. Just play it.
It's going to be enough.
Show it to him. Yeah. Yeah. But this is what we're talking about now. See, as you see, the Falibor there is at a 1-point play. The Baron could have represented the 6-point reset versus the 4 points that it reset.
We are finally in. Here we go. Game 2, my friends. This is quarterfinals number 3. Game 2, Tailbot versus Demarcation. Tailbot now on the blue side. Nilfgaard taking on Syndicate.
And there we have it. So there is the Imperial formation that I suspected would be played on the red coin, and it's showing up. That's a good pressure faction right there, because you can go ahead and use those leader abilities to just reach a little bit further into that round. Seeing what we got there, I mean, mulliganing away some of those cards that you don't necessarily want to see. The Tortoise is a decent card. It represents a lot of just vanilla points on the board, though you can potentially, give some of those points back in terms of the boost when the armor is exposed. Again, expose mechanics means that when a unit that has an exposed mechanic loses all of its armor, then that exposed effect will trigger. In this case, it's if he loses his armor, if he goes naked, it's going to be a little boosty boost to the opposing player's tallest unit. So that would be the Tortoise. But lots of good cards there. Looking at from Demarcation's perspective, on red coin, you have some of those bronzes that you can just sort of shoo away. Unfortunately, that crossbowman is usually you want to pair that up with a card like Razor Ramon, but in this case, it's not really many good targets to toss out there really quickly.
Yeah, the missing Ramon Tirconel here when without the ability to amp up the Ardfane Tortoise or the Ardfane Crossbowman early on is a little, it's a little bad again for Demarcation, kind of missing that draw, but it's not so bad. He does at least have a good selection of control options on red coin, but the hand is missing. It's missing something. It doesn't have a huge lineup for poison. It doesn't have huge lineups for soldiers. And Damien being the threat to push, answer this, or lose the round, it may come down to Demarcation actually getting into a situation where he has to play one of those answer this, or lose the round, as he decides to play Yennefer's Invocation on Imka, preventing any further gold gain from Tailbot here without him. So he will have to actually put in the effort to gain money. He's gonna have to go to work.
He's gonna have to, strap his boots on and get the lunch pail out and get there and get to work. But in terms of the Yen's Invocation value, when you're grabbing that Yen's Invo in an early round like this, where it's not just pure point removal, where you want to see that card potentially later on, there's not many good targets if you are a non-syndicate class using the obviously it's that where you're playing that Yen's Invocation. What can you potentially yoink? Maybe the Azar, but it's going to be protected by the defender, so you can't necessarily do it. Everything else is needs coins to really operate. The Saul, the Street Urchins, the Philippa, these are all great cards if you're syndicate. So I think that potentially using that Yen's Invocation on the MK means that if you're when you have finally bust out that bribery, maybe that MK will have coins in the bank for you to convert on that bribery play.
Now, we were talking earlier about there potentially being like a Philippa tug of war if there is a syndicate mirror, but I did notice in that moment that Demarcation does not run Swears in his Nilfgaard list, which if he was expecting syndicate, although given the amount of syndicate in this tournament, maybe you wouldn't be expecting syndicate, but it would have been an interesting inclusion to go up against here, being able to take away that the Flying Redanian, because we know that boat will keep coming back every time Tailbot hits 9 coins. The boat will recur from the graveyard, giving a lot of extra points in all rounds. And here comes Saul with the max boost, hitting his Horde trigger of 9. He does have 3 levels, and he's in his final form, Flake. He's going for a good amount of boost here, and he's forcing Demarcation to have an answer, because Saul just grows out of control.
I'm telling you, man, how good do you feel on a Friday night when you just got paid the day before, right? When you got a bank account with some money to spend, you're feeling great. And that's Saul on the back row now, just having a smile, and he's ready to rock and roll into the weekend. And he's just going to be boosting every single turn that passes. And now, again, that Yen's Invocation, which would otherwise be used perhaps to remove Saul in another round. But again, looking at Demarcation's hand, what do you got? You got no poison really to convert on. You've got, you can't really kill that. So seems to me like Demarcation's just going to probably, dump a few bronzes that don't necessarily do a whole lot to pressure the round, but at least keep them in it. You drop the Tortoise, you perhaps drop the Spearman. You even have Attorney Joust if you want to go ahead and maybe push a little more if you're close enough to make it close, if you're close enough to make it interesting. But at this point, with that Saul just rocking and rolling, for 3 points every turn, I don't know what you can do. But in the same vein, a lot of these cards that you're playing are going to have profit abilities. So you have to, if you're Tailbot, also you're limited in terms of cards that you want to play without spending some of those coins or profiting above and beyond the 9-point max.
I think in the most case, Tailbot's got a pretty good hand. He's not going to be playing the Fist Tech, but he is very happily playing. He's very happy playing something like the Sea Jackal or Philippa to spend those coins ultimately. But he does want to max out his value on Saul, as here comes the Poison Defense. Don't think it'll be enough with Tailbot's hand if he wants to keep pushing.
Again, 9 coins on that Saul just feels really good. Something, especially when you haven't seen a poison on it immediately. Because if he passes here, he's up to 18 points. You have a 6-point lead. Your opponent needs to play another card. You get a tick on the Magni division of the back row. So that 6-point lead is now 5. They got to play on top of your, again, when it swings back to Tailbot, another Saul 3-point lead, 3 points generated from there. So the 5 points, becomes an 8-point lead. So you really got to play 9 points right here off of a pass. If you really want to get ahead, it's a spooky scenario. But again, when that Saul just keeps ticking and ticking and
Wow,
ticking.
and he sees it, and you're right. If he has to play that many points, he doesn't have that many points without using leader charges. So, yeah, this is a little tough. Passing when ahead with an engine ticking is a good feeling. On 6 cards here does mean the Tailbot will have the advantage of defending with a card up. In the situation, here comes the Arcane Tortoise. You get the Magni tick. Saul's going to say hello.
He's got to drop the boost here. And then with the extra tick there, so like you were saying there, it did work out, but just by a hair. And
I was missing the tick on pass tick of the Magni. So my apologies. Demarcation. Right, that's why he's in the tournament.
And there's a card like MK, like we said, and if we can find, so MK is going to go back to the deck. I don't think that's really going to be more than 5 points, especially without a bribery in hand to really convert on it. But there's some more poison to help out Morale, which would have been really nice to put some pressure early on, is now long gone as we switch up on the Spearman. That's going to become, there's some more poison. So finally, getting access to that nasty green vial of goo that just makes your enemies disappear. And both hands look okay. I mean, you have Fist Tech, you've got the Hounds there that can drop some poison. You got a Spender, you got 2 Spenders, lots of poison, lots of steel, got a Defender. We're just missing an engine piece, frankly.
Yeah, it looks like Tailbot has a pretty good hand for defense. Demarcation on the decision on how, if and how he wants to bleed. At six cards, he's enticed to play at least one, unless he wants the extra mulligan. His hand looks much better now, being able to turn poisons around with Morale. Royal Decree now makes everything better for him, and of course, he does have Fangs as well. So this will be an evening of pure, unfiltered Nilfgaardian poison, no doubt. As Damien coming down as the 8th card played here, definitely telling Tailbot you need a solution immediately for this card, because I'm going to make things very painful for you this round if you don't.
Well, he's got the perfect solution, right? In his hand right now, he has the option of just using Hammond to slide it to the back, and that pretty much locks it up for Demarcation. And Tailbot, I don't think he's really that worried right now. Takes a sip of his Goblet of Justice and just waiting on how he wants to deal with this. Does he want to use his Hammond to move the Damien back? I guess you got to figure out what's the value. Is the value in disrupting the Damien, or is it in disrupting the Skellen potentially? But Damien, obviously, I feel it's a guaranteed 8-point recursion of your leader ability, which also makes it so that it also forces a Demarcation to, rather, it eliminates the option for Demarcation to use those leader abilities in this round to pressure Tailbot further. So you got to get rid of Damien now.
Bad on a number of levels. So this disable is probably the best form of defense in this case. And it's going to be another situation. Answer this right now, or I'm going to make this really painful for you. So I had a feeling when Damien came down that it was going to be much more commitment than just Damien, because he knew that he would start seeing the answers to once you see the answer to one problem, you have to propose maybe the same problem. Maybe there's no answer here. The only answer would be a double Fist Tech poisons, perhaps. I do have to just review the list again, but I think I lost them. So I'm going to have to bring them up again.
So that is one option. You can go ahead and just dig out one of those cards to drop the poison on it. You don't have the coins necessarily to steal Skellen. Not that it would really be a giant help to you besides just a raw point value, but you're spending a lot of coins purely for that. What Tailbot doesn't know is that there's not a massive tactic in hand that is going to really turn the tides. He'd have to use his Royal Decree into Menno, perhaps to get bribery. So that's not a bad one for Skellen, but he's opting instead to just play a little bit of defense. That Skellen could really just clone that Royal Decree. The Royal Decree, if he wants to, can go get Menno, which gets bribery, which then the Skellen can go ahead and get a second swipe of bribery. And we know how that goes. But bribery against Syndicate is not always it's not always a good thing. There's always issues where you're getting cards that really only get the true value off of them if you have some money in the bank to spend to increase them. So I think what he's going to opt to do rather is to double up on the Royal Decree, maybe get Fion to back up that hefty Helga.
So here comes Stefan Skellen doing Stefan Skellen things, doubling up on the Royal Decree in this situation to set up a very dangerous hefty Helga and then immediately protect it.
Break their bones and spirit.
This is going to be difficult to fight against. There is only one tactic in hand, but that the threat alone here does pose, it makes Tailbot consider what he's actually able to play and keep alive in this situation. There is an option to steal the Helga with Philippa. There's also the option of gaining coins with the leader ability and then using Philippa on. Sorry, we can't steal Helga. We can steal Fion.
Correct.
Got to remove the defender first, but that is the option there.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and you can use your wild card, let's say, to go ahead and get some coins, steal the defender, or you can just go ahead double poison it to get rid of it. But then at that point, what do you have? You've got a hefty Helga that has 2 charges that will go ahead and clean up your defenders, leaving you open to all the poison that Demarcation has in hand with the Morale, the Cupbearer, the Fangs of the Empire as well. And as we see, that hefty Helga is just it's got a lot of charges in there, and each one of those
the extra charge. Yeah, the extra charge from the copied Royal Decree and then the Fion's ability. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about just only having one joust, but it's already loaded.
I mean, in one option, what could have happened there was you could have perhaps played a card out of your deck to bring you up to the amount of coins necessary to steal the Fion, spend the 7 cards to steal the Fion, and further protect your back row from poison. So obviously then the Fion would probably just eat the poison anyways, because it would be a taller target. It's really a tough scenario for Tailbot here because Demarcation's got points, he's got removal, he's got a small engine piece there with the hefty Helga that's looking real nice, and
he's looking all in at this point, my friend. It looks like he is pushing for the 2-0. It's like it's all coming out, everything that needs protecting, all the big cards. Look at these are like, this is like an all-star lineup of Nilfgaard's cards right now. You got Fion, Helga, Damien and Skellen, and Morale, which I almost called a Nilfgaard card. But you could just say that these 5 golds have represented Nilfgaard for so long, and those have been the first plays of Demarcation. That screams 2-0 to me. It's a bleed that is going to demand respect.
Certainly, absolutely. And I mean, even in this case, what you do have the Philippa that can go ahead and convert 4 of those coins into a yoink of the hefty Helga, but I think that Demarcation is going to probably expend those before anything really occurs. I don't think that he's going to let this round go, especially with the poison already on a big body of the 6. As you can see there, Morale completes the transaction and banishes the Hammond away. And looking at the hand now, it's just some bronze cards for the most part and a Cupbearer. But don't forget, you do have the 2 charges of Imperial Formation, and then finally that sequence is Affen gets put to the top of the deck, which then summons to the melee row. So frankly, there's 9 points that are swimming around, protected by leader ability and just being by virtue of being in the deck. As you can see there's the Affen that is has the ability of when that card is purposely moved to the top of the deck, not by virtue of shuffling or anything random, but if you have a card that puts a card to the top of the deck, if that card is Affen, he will immediately summon to the melee row. So again, 2 charges off Imperial Formation plus the move is 9 points just right there in hand. So this 20-point lead in reality is a 29-point lead.
Tourney Joust, Demarcation choosing to hang in here and put a little bit more pressure on Tailbot, just keeping the Tourney Joust in, turning it into 6 points with the charge. Tailbot deciding, at this point, he is able to at least use poison for a huge amount of removal with leader, and I think Demarcation is not going to let up until he sees the leader. But especially with the double poison still available, but it may be, if Tailbot is patient, he may be able to get out of this without expending the bigger pieces, because Demarcation's final hand here may not be, well, now he's giving a good poison target potentially, so everything I just said.
Well, if this was a matter where perhaps he just dropped something small or something insignificant, I mean, the cards are not necessarily insignificant, but this might have been a scenario where there's nothing really tall enough or big enough that I want to commit a poison to. You don't want to put it on the dogs in the back row, because even though you're deleting 4 points off the board on Tailbot's range row, you want to be able to convert those poisons into something bigger, badder, and nastier. And in that case, the Sea Jackal really, converts those coins that otherwise would just sit there and collect dust into actual transferable points that are added to your total. So in this case, Demarcation's really thinking about it. He has such a big lead. I feel like, maybe now's the time to just go ahead and test the waters with, there it is, there's the recruit. Test the waters with the recruit, right? Just toss it out there, see what happens. It's not exactly a massive commitment, and you have enough of a lead where it's going to still take a massive play out of Tailbot to catch up here.
He does have 6 coins in the bank. That does represent not great value for Philippa right here. Using Caleb and then poison later. Demarcation has enough control over the game at this point that he'll just be able to pass out of a bad situation with a lead like this. So it's going to be tough. He's going to have to go ahead and go for a huge point swing when he's able to. But that will be the cue for Demarcation to be pretty happy with how this is going. The Imperial formation represents, an additional 9 points due to Affin coming out of the deck if chosen. There's poison on Skellen. And he is going to go ahead and use the Fist Tech with leader for the swing.
And the 3 points that come up back into the graveyard. No, he's opting to spend the points rather than just letting the Flying Redanian come out of the deck. And the reason he's doing that is because he wants to stay ahead. By that, he wants to protect that card advantage here. Because had he not spent those 4 coins off the Sea Jackal, the 3 points represented by the Flying Redanian would have tied him versus actually just leading by 3. So he had to spend some of those coins to get ahead. As another Fangs of the Empire comes in, this is a real nasty little bit of information.
This is an incredible amount of pressure at this point. Tailbot's going to have a really hard time getting out of this. He doesn't have, anything the Demarcation would be playing around, I don't think is something that threatens this round. Stuff like Graydon or Triss.
And if you're Demarcation, I feel like you have to do it. You've got a 20-point swing with the Cupbearer plus 9. You have a 29-point play in this regard, which puts you up by 28 points. I don't think there's anything that Tailbot can really do here. Even if he steals the 8, that's a 16-point swing. With the plus the 3, that's 19 points of recovery by just the Philippa alone on by stealing the Damien in the back row.
Urchins did drop. Cupbearer is going to finish the job. Then Mullerhelms have particular taste.
Now, would you actually just perhaps?
Right.
I don't think you want to pass here. I think you want to complete the bleed. I think you want to go for it.
What do you mean?
Because there's an
argument. His last card. It's or are you talking about use a leader?
Correct, about using your leader. There is an argument to be made here because it's 9 points that you can bring into the next round, and you have a 19-point lead. It's still going to take a massive play, and as he does,
okay, so 19 points though. He has the coins to cover it, and he can go in with Caleb and potentially draw Graydon. This is probably
19
huge.
points though.
19 points. He has Philippa for the steal. Oh, he's playing. Okay, he's playing it like this. He had Philippa for the steal with. He would use 8 points on the steal for Damien. That would have been a 16-point swing, 17, 18, 19 from Philippa, and then he could spend the remaining coin on the Urchin. Am I wrong? Could he have done that in the one card?
He would have had. Philippa doesn't provide profit, right? So
but he had 9 coins and then 1 left over for the Urchin. That would have been.
But Philippa does not provide profit, right?
He had 9 coins. He doesn't need profit. He uses it. 8 coins, steals Damien, and then the last coin he spends on the Urchin. That's enough, right? I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm counting quickly, but I don't know. We'll see.
No, because if he did have 9 coins, you're correct. He would have spent the last coin on the Urchin. He would have gotten ahead. I thought he had 8 coins. I might have just, again, I have terrible eyesight, and so I might have just misread there. But on 8 coins, a Philippa play there would have spent all the coins. That would have been a 19-point swing, leading to a tie. If it was 9 coins, rather. You steal the 8 and you spend the last coin on the Urchin. You're up by 1. So you were correct in that in that calculation.
It all happened so fast, you know. I just thought that maybe was it. But at this point here, Tailbot having to go. Oh, it said opponent goes first here, but it is Tailbot acting first. Yeah, Tailbot now losing last say here. He will be able to. He will be able to push some poison out potentially with Vivaldi Bank. He does have a little bit of money to check it out. Vivaldi Bank does have a lot of good pulls. As you can see, he did miss Borsodi, Triss Telekinesis, and Graydon. These are all very important cards.
Sometimes they're quite fresh.
I don't think he'll have the money to really do what he needs to do here.
Unfortunately not, because you're not exactly digging too deep into your deck with the bank there, not to mention what you pull out, you're not having many coins to play around with to, you know, actually get full value off of them. You have to play morale here, but what are you playing morale into, right? Like there's nothing to, you might be able to, if he has a poison left over, but looking
Yeah,
at
I think he can bank something. I think there's something in the bank there for Tailbot to grab. Well, there's
bribery
demarcations right there,
but I mean, I feel like it's not looking too good. Mind you, I mean, we've seen
just Menno and Spearman. I mean, we got to see. It's gonna. I don't know. Does it come down to the bank?
Well, there's Menno and Spearman plus the 9 points from your leader, right?
Oh, yes, so of course, the leader that was not played yet. Yes, that is going to definitely tip the scales.
Yeah,
that is going to tip the scales.
That's a big, and that, again, when we were talking earlier about the consideration about saving the leader ability into round 3 rather than expending it to complete a really aggressive bleed in round 2, as we see here, now it's really factoring in because the cards he had otherwise just going into this round, had he known, if he did not have the leader to support him, it would have been a little bit closer, or a lot closer rather. As you can see over here, the bank has to convert on something big, maybe the Triss Telekinesis into Fist Tech.
Yeah, it could. He could get a poison here, but it's just for the 3 points. It is still probably the best thing.
Well, Fist Tech also gets you the coins, plus completes the poison, and then you can convert those coins into points on the Sea Jackal.
Gotta find them. Gotta find those points.
There it is. I mean, 60 points, that's not bad considering the difficult circumstances. And Tailbot knows that he's got 9 points already up against it. That Menno
has to get at least 4 points, though. Bribery has to roll. Basically, Bribery could brick. It is possible that it is not enough.
Let's find out right now. I mean, a Bribery versus...
I think this is I think even the 5 of Urchins is enough. Yeah, I think even the 5 of Imka is just enough.
Points, right? 9 points plus the 7.
Oh my goodness.
Ooh, mama, again.
We take a draw with...
Boy, howdy indeed. As we can see, it's another remake here of something we saw earlier. Tailbot's going to be on the blue coin in this case, again, representing the Syndicate faction, as Demarcation is going to be once again trying his licks at Nilfgaard with the Imperial formation. The Mulligans are coming through. Morale's back in hand. You've got the Yen's Invocation against Stefan Skellen, and Razor Ramon has made an appearance in the first round. That's a good pressure tactic when coupled with the Crossbowman.
Yeah, so Demarcation has a much better opening hand here, and I think that's going to make this game very different feeling. Again, not being able to connect with Ramon in the first game, not being able to have any extra poisons in the hand in the first game, having to use Yennefer's Invocation very, very early, all of that stuff. So I think that Demarcation will be playing this one a lot different as well. And Tailbot also has access to a couple of things he didn't have access to at the beginning, but I think it's a much, much stark difference for Demarcation. All right. Street Urchins are coming down here, profiting, and at this point, no Imka. We saw earlier in the last game, Imka being a very popular choice. Tailbot's main purpose here is to get to as many coins as possible, as fast as possible, to get Flying Redanian out of the deck, and then get that tempo going to be able to defend against what will be a Ramon into Crossbowman Storm, which no doubt will make it a little bit harder for Tailbot to fight against this.
What are they without armor?
Ramon just touched down here. Crossbowman on the board and in hand. detailing probably what's going to be happening next. Another crossbowman. And Tailbot now having to deal with an actual good start here. As the Tiger's Eye is cashed in.
Good protection on that spender there. Again, those spenders are so important to translate points into coins into actual point value. Not just a matter of activating abilities, but you also want to go ahead and find a home for that loose change at the end of it. Flying Redanian comes out with the 9 coin max out, as you can see there, and that is also an effect that not only comes out from the deck, but also from the graveyard. And the second crossbowman is going to come in and put in some extra work on that street urchin, as you can see there. Again, barricade, damage a random enemy by 1 when you play a soldier. So now that's 2 soldiers on the board with another 1, 2, 3 in hand. So there are opportunities now for those soldiers to go ahead and maybe complete the pressure on that urchin. I think that Tailbot might have to start spending some of those coins on that urchin just to keep it up, and Demarcation might be in the same boat, the same vein of continuing to pressure down on it. So right now, Demarcation is really forcing Tailbot to use those coins rather than maybe get value off of them with something like Saul, let's say. As you can see, Saul comes down now.
Here comes Saul being called. Urchins spending the money. Tailbot now in a position where he can just stay out of reach here, stay in this game.
Yeah, he's going to collect again. The Horde ability on 6 there means at the end of the turn he's boosting by 2. He's spending just enough coins, as you can see there, just enough coins to stay out of reach of Attorney Joust. And Demarcation's list there is, let's see, just double checking. He does not run Assassination, so there's no risk of having a 5 on the board right there to be susceptible to that removal. So Tailbot really, cleverly spending the coins to not only get a decent boost by Saul, but also dodging Attorney Joust and keeping that spender alive.
There's Yennefer's Invocation, again being played in round 1 when there could be other targets, but yeah, that was. What do you think about Yennefer's Invocation coming out here? I mean, this does allow Demarcation to stay ahead, but just barely for a big card like that. I wonder if that was the best call. I think that playing a Magni could have been good as well, but he's playing around something that I'm probably not thinking of.
Well, I think that he wants to just maintain a decent lead here. The cards that he has in this round, in this game in round 1 versus the previous game are completely different. He has the ability to really pressure with those 2 crossbowmen and the good package of soldiers that he has going on. So I think that just making sure that he's got the pedal to the metal in terms of pressuring Tailbot by removing those point generators. And as you can see, that essentially just went ahead and said, all right, let's just stop playing games here. I'm going to go ahead and put all my coins in that basket, protect those points, and force you perhaps to commit some extra cards to get ahead here, because now one of those cards that are necessary is a removal of that defender. It's just a 1-point defender with 1 armor, but it's still a turn that you have to use to get ahead. But
seems like sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it seems like a pass play. Like you don't really want to play these tall units around a poison list, even if you are playing 1 defender. But just playing the 1 defender and pumping all the coins into Urchin just screams I'm passing.
Yeah,
but
and
it
that
seems
was
like an
not
odd choice for the pass. Maybe the pass just to there it is, and it protects for the poison. It protects from any poison play taking these points away.
But he's going to go for it nonetheless. Unfortunately, the pings do complete it, and with the extra the extra points from Magni Division in the back just taken away, and those 2 crossbowmen firing off randomly is enough to get the job done. Tailbot again is going to have to see how deep he wants to go into this round. And again, we saw it last time. He got bled pretty effectively and resulted in a tie. This case, he's going to be passing off of some of those cards. He doesn't have Saul, but he does have Imke now, and no Yen's Invocation, but he did ditch his defender in round 1, so there's no protection for that card.
Imke does represent a ton of points when you're looking at cards like Jackal, Urchin, any spender, Borsodi perhaps, if undealt with, can just be The ceiling for her is incredible. You can spread the points out as well, depending on where you're spending those coins, so you aren't as susceptible to something like just a tall unit or something that would be much more easily dealt with. As Demarcation is looking to get things established with Hefty Helga, perhaps we will see something similar here. But we don't have Royal Decree, we have Menno. So we will potentially see Menno into Fion, which will create a number of charges for Hefty Helga. This is a problem that needs to be solved, and it's going to be difficult to solve it with 0 coins.
I like this play because what it does is it forces Tailbot to immediately answer it and possibly expend his leader ability. So let's say that Hefty Helga is just gone, right? It's taken off by a Slander double poison using the leader ability, and it's eliminated before the leader charge is used. Then Demarcation's still at 7 cards, and he could still sort of back off on this round, and he'll be in an okay shape. Otherwise, if it's still there, you can go ahead, drop your Menno into the defender, and start using those pings. As you can see right now, he's going to go ahead and probably protect that Hefty Helga, and keep the Fiona in the back row to protect the Hefty Helga as an engine piece. And that's it. So without an instant answer, that was kind of like the feel out. It was an expensive feel out by dropping a big card like Hefty Helga, but if it wasn't immediately answered, that's kind of the green light for Demarcation to just go for it and make it happen. And worth noting also, Fion spawns a battle preparation, which is a tactic, so that Hefty Helga had 3 charges on it, which was enough to go ahead and make short work of morale before the order ability went out.
Yeah, so this is playing out similarly here, where Demarcation is happy to take off full-on control, try to bleed Tailbot out of his resources by creating just a board that's so hard to deal with. Now, multiple poisons need to be used, but can be used. Tailbot can play leader and a poison card from his hand, which in this case would be the Doggos or Triss, and that would be a huge deletion of points. 13 would come off the board immediately, and then anything would be established, and that would cause Demarcation to have to commit even more for the push.
Alternatively, you can use a Hammond to just move you could. I suppose the Hammond is also a decent option if you want to use your leader ability to complete the poison, and then go ahead and use Hammond to, like in this case, disrupt the skeleton. So that's a possibility as well.
Well, it's going to be tough with the defender, and now still having to remove it. Skellen will proc here. He will be able to be activated.
Well,
potentially choosing.
What's that? Okay. I was going to say Wildcard could have. I don't know if he had another Fist Tech in his deck. Pulling out Fist Tech with leader ability to complete the kill on Fion, and then dropping Hammond to move Skellen to the front row.
That could have also done it. Yeah, that would have also prevented that.
It looks like a free ride right now.
I mean, he can do. Yeah, he can go ahead and do. He's already committed to leader. I think we can see it glowing, and we know that Tailbot is choosing his card. I think he's just trying to make sure that he wants to use the Fist Tech here, or he's planning something for a little bit longer bleed. Will be the Fist Tech. 9 coins. Redanian will show up, tie up the game.
We've seen that before. The tie here, unfortunately for Tailbot, Stefan Skellen is gone untouched. I'm a little bit curious. He's valuing the Hefty Helga over the Skellen in terms of value over time here, because you could have done the same thing. You could have dropped the Fist Tech, killed the defender, dropped Hammond to disrupt the Skellen, unless Tailbot is just thinking that Damien is still on the menu, wherein you want to go ahead and drop Hammond to disrupt the Damien. But again,
Damien is much worse to deal with for sure.
You do have the Philippa. However, you could steal the Damien if necessary, which would actually come into play for Tailbot. He could always revive his leader ability. That would be a pretty solid steal as well.
Full value Tourney Joust, doubling the Tourney Joust. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Royal Decree already available for Skellen?
I believe it was. Yeah, if we can take a look at the graveyard real quick.
I mean, was that the play?
Sure it was. I mean,
No,
I feel like
he played it to get Fion. Oh no,
Correct.
battle prep. My mistake. It was battle prep.
But he played Menno into Royal Decree into
Pheon, and
Pheon.
Pheon played the battle prep. So battle prep is what was on Skellen. So it wasn't a waste there.
Nonetheless, I mean, 13 protected points. It spawned and play a copy of the last tactic card you played. So the last tactic card would have been battle prep. So that's why perhaps he didn't. But I mean, battle prep was worth more than double tourney joust. No, he used the tourney.
So.
Okay.
Don't think so in this case. Especially when you know you're trying to keep something out of Philippa range. I think that the goal here was to create something that couldn't be stolen by Philippa and something that couldn't be damaged either. So that was probably the choice in this case, as Tailbot is continuing to fight against the constant assault of Demarcation.
Demarcation now only having 3 opportunities of poison left versus the 4 you had in the previous bleed. Again, still some decent cards in Tailbot's hand. I mean, Philippa is essentially what you want to do to just steal the round if necessary, but you're not going to be stealing that Stefan Skellen at 13 points. But you got to be wondering why he's not afraid of poison. I mean, he could be afraid of poison. Maybe he's just trying to get the poison out and putting Skellen out there as massive bait. But I mean, only ahead by 1. This is a much different round 2 bleed than we saw previously.
Yeah, just holding on to what he has in his hand here. I believe, what is that? The Morale Cupbearer combo. So he's going to make sure that no matter what Tailbot is doing, he's playing into poison. So everything that is played is at risk. We could see Fangs as well. There's a lot of poison in Demarcation's deck. There's Af, and that'll quickly go away. And there's the Saw that he probably won't keep.
No, there's no way you want to keep the Saw. You have no way to generate coins, obviously, so it's just 4 points of dead weight in the hand right now.
He drew it then.
Ooh, there's another 4th point of poison, but I mean, between Bomb Heaver and Saul, you know, there's a bribery. Now, you could hit profit off bribery.
Yeah, that makes Saul legitimately an engine now. That is good.
Imagine you open with bribery, find MK, and then roll MK with Saul, or even if you just go ahead and hit a Street Urchin for the profit 3, that way Saul's at least ticking for 1 at an end of every turn. I honestly think that perhaps I mean, it might not be a bad idea to just actually lead in with bribery and hope for some profit and get Saul going, and you know, maybe not right away, but it is definitely a consideration.
Imka coming down to immediately get the coins. There is no immediate answer here as far as just destruction, unless there's a bribery roll that would do it, but I don't believe there is.
I mean, now we got to look at ways that Tailbot can kill his own units. Let's just find out, because that bribery is what we're looking at. There's not a whole lot that can do it. You don't have coins to really convert on a Philippa.
You would get Hammond and you would move her. I think that's the only thing that you would do. But I mean, if you wanted to go, I mean, if we're looking for solutions to this problem, but it could be Marcation is just thinking, yeah, let's just kill it with poison, and that's just how we're going to have to do it.
Nasty Philippa response, though, potentially, because you do have the.
Oh no! There's the solution to that problem.
You're correct about that, because otherwise, stealing that morale would deny your demarcation of a follow-up order on the morale, and it would open up your own Fistek Trafficker to complete a play with the order as well. Because right now, Fistek Trafficker, which gives poison to a unit, doesn't have a second poison to connect with, other than perhaps Triss Telekinesis grabbing a Fistek or using
in the bank
to go ahead and find it. As you can see there 1 left.
Same time.
Oh man,
so
Graydon has just not been seen in this. We've played this series, this game twice now, and Graydon just not drawn. So we're not getting to see like the big wild card plays, but at the same time, Tailbot has had his leader ability bled in both of these situations.
Poison just goes ahead and takes MK out of the equation. There's a Purifying to protect the 9 points on the board. Philippa, I mean, if Demarcation wants to go ahead and just commit Saul, just to toss it out there, that is an excellent target for Philippa. However, I don't think that Demarcation is just going to give that out there, knowing that he has not seen Philippa yet. I don't think Demarcation wants to commit a card that he had, earlier stolen from Tailbot that might actually just go ahead and cross the the boundaries again and go back to Tailbot's side. Philippa, of course, is a card that when deployed can actually take control of a opponent's unit, spending coins equal to the unit's strength. So that Saul being 4, Philippa would come down, spend 4 coins, and Saul is now part of the team.
Part of the team. I like that. It's like, hey, Saul, we have money now. Don't you want to stay with Nilfgaard? We've got this money. Where did you get that money?
It reminds me of that Simpsons episode with the softball. I'll choose Jose Canseco. I'll choose Millhouse. I'll choose Ken Griffey Jr.
Yes. A classic episode. I actually just read an article about Daryl Strawberry the other day. I'm not going to expand on that. I'm just going to say that it was topical somehow to my life that you mentioned that episode. Feeling a bit peckish. Poison coming down on the only tall unit for Tailbot. Tailbot's going to have to fight against more poison still. Potentially one from Bribery, and Van Moorhelm's Cupbearer comes with his own set of poison as well.
No other spenders in the bank for no other spenders on the side of Tailbot, so those extra coins are going to have to be used in a very particular way. If we check into the deck of Tailbot, I believe there's Uwald that's in there as another opportunity to go ahead and spend, but Tailbot is deciding.
Right.
There's a good fist tech.
Redanian comes out. Philip a prime to steal at 9, if that would even come up.
Now, it would be a very risky steal to steal those 9 points. I think those coins are better off used in another way.
Or definitely not those 9 points. Those 9 points are dead, potentially.
Well, by stealing those 9 points, you're also protecting. I mean, you're spending all those 9 points. You got to find a way to spend those coins, is what I'm saying. And right now, the poison on the Jackal are going to get just crushed by the Cupbearer. And how else are you going to steal those points? I guess you got to be very, very keen about how you're going to do it, because you don't want to over profit with the bank. Again, 9 coins is the maximum amount of coins that you can have in the bank, and the Vivaldi bank profits 3 right out of the gate. So you don't want to get a waste of those coins here. So you got to make sure that your Philippa is matched. This is terrible.
It's all coin, right? It's all bad. This is exactly. But he gets a coin. He gets a coin. That doesn't matter for Saul.
We find ourselves in agreement.
Yeah, Syndicate versus Bribery is always a treat. If you've ever had a chance to just watch Bribery whiff time after time, play Syndicate.
Well, yeah, exactly. And what are you looking to actually get out of the deck that Tailbot's holding? There are
poison.
That's it. You're looking
poison badly, but
absolutely
he can build about it.
I wonder, now this is the consideration that Demarcation needs to make as well. Is it worthwhile for him to go ahead and perhaps purify the 9 points on the morale? But if that occurs, that's
poison in Bribery he would have, but I think now that's no longer an option.
And now perhaps you want to, like, for instance, if he purifies the 9 points in morale, that might be an opening for Tailbot to go ahead and actually just swipe that morale from his side for an 18-point a discrepancy plus the 3, a 21-point swing.
He's gonna take the blacksmith, which he can use.
That's a pretty nifty play, because it opens up another spending ability for those coins. So now the Jackal it's not all on his shoulders, especially with the poison goo just kind of haunting him there.
Trinity Joust is going to make it so no more coins will be spent with that blacksmith. Be gone, be gone. But that was very important, because a lot of these coins would have been harder to spend. Now he's going to have to go to the bank. Hammond is just going to end. I mean, he has to play Hammond if he wants the bleed value to tick completely, I believe. No, he's going to the bank. He sees everything, of course. He's rich. Tailbot's rich. There's the poison he's looking for morale.
And this is the point where Tailbot realizes that Demarcation does not have Damien. There's no Damien to be had here. That Saul is looking pretty sad at this point. 15-point discrepancy, only 7 of which can be recovered from the leader ability into Affin. Doesn't look too good. But I mean, you can connect that Cupbearer pretty effectively on the Sea Jackal, eliminating not only the 7 points, but the additional points that can be represented by the spending of it. So now Tailbot's going to have to just sit on those 5 coins. That's I guess those are part of his inheritance.
Look at this. Saul and the blacksmith to have 2 cards like that bad and still come out on top is pretty wild, right?
Absolutely.
Like he whiffed so hard in this last round, and I think that he He gets it. Nilfgaard pretty strong. Demarcation's going to tie it up here. It is 1-1. Tailbot versus Demarcation in the best of 5.
As we go into the game, yes,
Here we
absolutely.
go. Syndicate Mirror. This will be an interesting one because they are very different decks. We're going to see some similarities.
We got Northern Realms. Northern Realms versus.
You know, it's weird. It's funny. I look at Caravan Vanguard and I looked at Temple Guard, and my mind just saw the oranges, and you know.
I feel you, buddy. I totally feel you. Yeah, we're gonna go. Demarcation is gonna go with the blue coin. On blue coin is gonna be taking that Uprising. He's got some pretty big cards in the hand right there. Adalia can connect with a Vanguard. That's kind of the pairing that you want. Philippa for control. You've got Baron to take out one of those spenders perhaps that has gotten a little overzealous. For instance, Saul as well, that can grow out of control. And Prince Anseus as well is a great card for just some spot removal when necessary.
Typical opening here, starting off with the very good old trusty and reliable Radovid's Royal Guards.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to cards that can really make a difference, that really are completely expendable, that's a great opening play. Toss it in the back row. It comes in the green, which is where you want to be. Has a great order effect when it connects, and dropping the Street Urchins down, boosting them by 1. Puts them out of range of some of the early damage effects that some of the cards that Demarcation might utilize. Just looking right now, what can we possibly? I mean, I don't think you really want to use something like Prince Anseus straight away.
Definitely not.
No, definitely not. We're gonna just double up on the Radovid Royal Guards in the back, but if those 2 Radovid Royal Guards just remain untouched, you don't necessarily have to use too many charges on an Anseus to get a massive swing purely with the Anseus. Those 2 boosts can work out. I don't think there's any reason why at the moment you need to use those charges for the Radovid Royal Guard. So we're going to see how this kind of translates right now. The Enchantress is going to go ahead and drop 2 points of vitality on the Djinn, rub the lamp, and give him a little extra boost there. So a little 2 points of uptick as the Enchantress on the range row offers 2 points of vitality to that Djinn.
I do like the way Demarcation plays his Northern Realms, how he forces the opponent to make answers, but he won't spend those charges. He has patience. It's like, this is going to still be a threat, so eventually you might want to deal with it. So I do like that. I do like that a lot, and I do think that Demarcation has some options here. It is the blue coin. So the point lead, you want to be a little careful here. He is going to be expending a little bit here because he is running, looking for as many boosts as possible. He doesn't really have a deck. He doesn't really have a hand that shows that he can really make use of the boost, but Tailbot doesn't know that. He definitely has cards in his deck, Visagird, Scytheman. He's showing that he might have that in his hand, and Tailbot's a good hand reader, so he might see that and make some assumptions.
Now, I like what you're mentioning about how the patience that Demarcation is exhibiting here by not using all the charges or holding on to a few of them. And a lot of that is because Tailbot's not really playing a whole lot of cheap removal. I mean, a lot of that what he's playing involves poison. And, he's tempting Tailbot to go ahead and start depositing poisons where they are. And, I mean, the one that we see over here onto the Djinn is a 7-point potential poison. But, I mean, Demarcation might be saying, all right, you want to drop some poison on these bronzes? Like, go for it. As soon as you drop it, I'm going to use these charges. I don't need to use them right away. You're not going to use a Philippa for it. I doubt that you might, commit a Uald and start spending those coins just to get rid of a bronze like this. So I like that patience. There's nothing really dangerous about waiting on those charges, especially with that lead that he's holding right now, and really nothing of major value committed to the board yet.
Yeah, exactly. Nice and easy. 4 4-point cards in a row with the stratagem is all that it's needed here to actually have a pretty decent board. Didn't even spend that charge on the Radovid's Royal Guard. Tailbot here now looking to just make sure that he is able to take the round in a card if needed, as being able to stay ahead is becoming more and more difficult. He is not able to access a poison, I believe, he does have the Fist Tech Trafficker. I say it as soon as it comes out here. So this will get the 10-point turn as this game gets a little bit closer.
Yeah, slowly, still not using the spending the coins there. It's not part of it. I mean, if at the same regard, if at what point do you want to be committing some of these big cards? I think that Tailbot's fine right now, just kind of feeling it out. He's on the right side of the coin that he wants to be. He's on the red coin, so he's keeping it within striking distance in order to go ahead and just play another card and get ahead by spending the right amount of coins. That's the beauty of having those spenders on the board like the street urchins, where you can really just get ahead by that 1 point. With the right amount of math, you just drop a card and make it happen. And as you can see over there, the sea jackal, or you have a myriad of bronzes there. The coarse blacksmith can come down, bringing him up to 17 points. You spend 4 coins, you're down to 5. You move on to the next round, and it's all good. As we see here, there's the sea jackal. It's going to come in for 4, 1 tick of the spending, and you're good to go.
Tailbot now has a chance to take it. He is down a card here, but he does have control of the game with a card to spend before he goes down to 7 cards, which is that crucial line that many players consider when they're looking to commit to a big push in round 2 to bleed out the opponent's resources. And that is all on Tailbot's mind right now, as he draws some pretty decent cards here, Imka and Borsodi. Now, those work really well together. And if he is able to perhaps assemble a protected front well, you can't protect them both. They need to be on different rows, but keeping one of those protected and the other one generating coins or damage value is definitely going to be in Tailbot's interest. Caleb suggests that Azar is going to drop on the melee row, if anything. Graydon as well will drop on the melee row as well. So we will see Azar likely there. So Imka is going to be maybe needing to use his shield to generate full value, but this is all stuff that Tailbot needs to consider because he's in control of the game. This round goes as long as he wants.
Now, I would actually argue that it might be better off to protect the range row and let Imke kind of have her way and be protected there, because I feel like the coin generation is a little bit more important, because you can always drop Uwald and spend all the coins in one foul swoop, and there it is. So there,
you definitely called it.
Yeah, so he's going to protect
the defense at all, though. A little bit of that is about the money.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, you got to have a way to spend the coins, and I feel like protecting Uwald but not your revenue source is going to be problematic, because like we mentioned, Uwald comes down, and spending coins is essentially a quote-unquote zeal effect. Zeal
right.
Meaning that you can immediately as you deploy it. So if you can just continuously have a massive bank account going, and then eventually drop the Uwald when necessary to just go ahead and start firing down what is problematic, that's one way as well. But Falibor makes short work of the... Yeah, that's a great use of Falibor. I don't know if there was going to be a better opportunity. I feel like Falibor is always going to be looking to just kind of go 3-2-1 on the defenders, and in this case, the Azar just dropping the 1 Scarab to protect, and Falibor puts him ahead, and now sure. Tailbot's at that 7-card threshold.
So what Demarcation has going for him is definitely the fact that he had Falibor, and Tailbot would never have just played Azar in a critical situation, I think, with Falibor being an answer. But also Philippa, and the reason why this is so difficult for Tailbot is it's going to be hard for Tailbot to establish any units on a bare board, and because Demarcation has started with a little bit of control, he's kind of in a position to stop these. There are, of course, there's the shield, of course, which was going to be required without that defender, but it is possible. It is possible in some way that Demarcation can pull ahead with Philippa in a critical time and then end up being up a card and full leader ability, and that's the worst spot the Tailbot wants to be into. So he wants to see some key stuff, and Demarcation has some key stuff: Visigored, Philippa, Baron, and Adalia with Vanguard. It's going to be a really difficult bleed that Tailbot is now already committed to.
Yeah, the only thing really going for Tailbot in this case, besides that wicked haircut, is the fact that he's got the 1/2 of the crown already in the bank there. So with that ballista, again, you're going to ping off that shield. You're not eliminating the MK, but you're telling Tailbot, all right, spend 3 more for that shield if you want. I will ping it off with my ballista the next turn over, and you're gonna have to spend another round of coins to protect her again. So he's just harassing here, and he's ahead of Tailbot after Tailbot has already committed to just going into this round a little deeper than maybe he's already comfortable. I actually would consider maybe, I mean, well, that's the thing. Philippa's going to drop in. Okay, there's Caleb.
So
the profit.
we can see the potential here, right? That's a lot of money that could potentially be made by Ewald Borsodi or a well-placed poison from Triss and Wildcard. And once the money is in the bank and being generated between Imka and this bounty, Borsodi will rampage out of control. So I think Demarcation is looking for the best opportunity now to make units. I think we're going to see a dolly here. I think we're going to maybe see an ability. He wants to be able to boost up the units and be able to play Visigour to avoid getting hit too hard by this bleed, because this bounty is no joke. No way to. He does run a Peller. Demarcation does run a Peller, but he doesn't have access to it right now. And Tailbot's going to figure that out pretty fast.
I mean, that was a relatively clean Philippa, the 4 onto the, and then, you might have lost some value again, but you got rid of the money source there. The bank is closed now as Philippa deletes that. But again, there's just the matter of now Caleb in the front row who can just go ahead and drop bounties, kill things, drop bounties, kill things. And the problem now is that Tailbot needs the way to actually convert, not only the coins, or to kill Falibor to gain those coins, but also he's going to be over profiting a little bit here. So he has to figure out what's the cleverest way to make this happen. And I guess Ewald is most certainly
this is a lot of money. Yeah, this is going to be able to wipe out everything. And I think I do want to comment that Demarcation played really well here with the Ballista, because it prevented any opportunity for Tailbot to reshield Imka on Philippa because of the charge. So I think that was a pretty good use. He didn't have a lot of bad cards to play there, and I think that that was probably the best situation. But this is a lot of money here. Ewald Borsodi does have the ability to cash in by killing the Ballista, which has a charge ready, but in fact opts to let Demarcation keep that charge on the Ballista. I don't know if I would have done the same thing, but there's probably a method to his madness.
Exactly. You got to trust the player to know what he's doing. In this case, you could have spent the coins to go ahead and drop the bounty on the Ballista, spend 4 of those coins to recover 3. So really, you're only taking a little bit of a loss there. I don't know if that was the right idea, because it's not just the 3 points that you're deleting off the board. It's the 2-point damage that Ballista is now coming back with that order, as you can see. As Prince Enseus comes in and just gets rid of the Ewald. Now the Course Blast puts up the profit to 9. Maybe that was what he was doing there. He wanted to make sure that he can go ahead and get the points back.
Keeping his horde active, and of course keeping the coins active for Philippa to steal up perhaps something that might need to be set up, like Baron or Visigour in some situations. So
at a certain point, though, if you're Demarcation, you got to understand that you have to commit. There it is. I was going to say you have to commit the Adalia. You have to go ahead and actually make those decisions of like, well, these are going to be bad cards later. These are not going to be significant later. So I got to make sure that I have some bodies on the board to actually make it a little less, appealing for Tailbot to maybe continue pushing. But with a Dahlia on the board, you got the benefit of the shield on the Caravan, and now you have the bonded ability coming out next. So that's not a bad play in itself. And hypothetically, Demarcation could just go with the other set of Caravans and then go with the Voimir if things get a little too scary. But the Philippa with the body so low to the ground is not as devastating a swing.
Yeah, this is like Demarcation has so many good cards here, and obviously Tailbot has potential. He's now going to be healing up Caleb and likely using it, and hopefully spending or keeping enough coins for a swing, because it looks like Tailbot's going in. Holding on to Philippa and Triss as last cards isn't so bad when you have wild card. So you play Triss for the Fist Tech. Demarcation isn't running a lot of specials, so I think you hit it most of the time. And then you have there's all the money, almost all being spent there, keeping 2 in the holster.
I think that those 2 are, it's let's say you hit you hit, I guess you play Triss to see if you find poison, and then, but even now the poisons are not that great. They're not great at all.
No, this would be, you would have to use Leader and Triss, and I think that's Tailbot's counting on that Leader Triss in the round 3, although he's perhaps spying an opportunity to take more away from Demarcation, but Demarcation's hand's pretty good. No boosted units on the board means that Visigurd's ability is severely limited. So Tailbot knows that if he's not playing around Visigurd or playing around a huge point swing that Visigurd can be responsible for, he's going to probably feel a little bit more comfortable to spend all his coins and get ahead by, he's already ahead. He's already forcing Demarcation to make a 10-point play here.
So there it goes. The bonded ability from the caravans comes through. Bonded, of course, means that if a similar copy of that card is already on the board, you can trigger the bonded ability. In this case, it is spawn a copy and boost the original copy by 3. So a lot of the same dudes on the board now, meaning that Voimir looks a lot juicier, and I don't think you'll get a better option moving forward. And good pass there by Tailbot. I mean, he found his seam and he took it, and unfortunately he knew that it was probably going to be out of reach later to recover that card back. So Tailbot taking the pass, still has some cards in hand that are pretty significant. Things like Philippa, card like Triss Telekinesis that can couple up and just insta delete a card with the double poisons. And now just going to see what Demarcation picks up.
Well, only 2 golds between them here. Scytheman's gonna go. Royal Decree is a good pickup. Only the Mauler is not that exciting. However, reinforcement for the leader ability on the Scytheman is the best thing you can hope for. There's what a hand. Tailbot overloaded with poisons perhaps, and Demarcation, not a bad card in the set. This is going to be a tough one.
I'd like to see Demarcation's deck to see if he does. I think he might have another caravan left in the deck that you could go ahead and potentially hit the Royal Decree on the caravan, which is exactly what he does. And then he could reinforce onto it and then drog, and then, Bob's your uncle and you're good to go. And that's pretty much what's going to happen, because I don't think there's a one-hit kill, defense against this, because even if one of those caravans is remains, that reinforcement will force the bonded ability as well. So you're gonna pretty much guarantee that you're gonna have a decent time with reinforcement connecting with one of those caravans.
We also have a potential to see a Slander Slander Leader Graydon on Drog, Slander Leader Graydon on Baron, which is a massive, massive swing in points. That combo alone is something that Wildcard is known for and has been known for in various states of power. The Graydon swing with Slander is one of the best swings in the game. Of course, since then, Wildborn Sea has come out, but I think that this and Getinith for leader combos, but this could potentially represent a lot of points. But with 4 humans ready to be converted on the board, no poison really threatening here, so losing it to Drog on the conversion into the Kidwini Revenants probably won't be a big deal.
Yeah, I feel like you have to make it happen. Again, Drog has the deploy effect of transform all allied humans into Kedwani Revenants. Again, those Revenants deal 1 damage, death blow, spawn another Revenant. But what the interesting part about Drog is that Drog will then, upon the transformation of those humans, will negate and just nullify any of the status effects on it. So poison, lock, bleed, vitality, all that stuff goes bye-bye as the transformation effect occurs. So, Tailbot might be considering now, is it worth it to go ahead? Perhaps you could go ahead and use your leader ability to find another poison, let's say, delete one of those, delete the 3 with poison, and maybe play your Philippa to steal the 6, and that might limit some of the Drog points. But rather going for the Slander, gaining some coins, dropping a bounty, and that poor caravan is now just collecting statuses.
It's an absolute status symbol, that Caravan Vanguard. It's an interesting choice there. I think ultimately, I think ultimately he's pretty confident that. I'm just double checking the Demarcation's deck list. Triss is 100% to hit the bounty, so I think that having that extra Slander just doesn't mean as much. But this is going to be a wild Drog and a wild follow-up Visigurd. This looks very difficult to handle. Now, being able to convert coins on Drog right now is possible, but the coins you spend are the coins you don't have for Philippa.
Yeah, this is going to be tough.
Well, no, between the bounty the bounty provides you with the coins, and then you would Philippa. But this 32-0, I've seen comebacks, but with the Sea Jackal, I wonder if it's going to be enough. There is a spot for all the coins.
Keep in mind, it's 32-0 with five charges of Kidwani Revenant pings, as well as a 6-ping Visigourt. So something's gonna die. Like, it's just gonna show up to the party and immediately just get gunned down in the name of Northern Realms justice. But you know, I guess you just gotta sort of, you can't give up. And in terms of making sure that this works out, I mean, stealing that Revenant is okay, but now you're leaving that Philippa open for more Revenant fire.
Well, I have to play something, unfortunately. That's the situation that Tailbot is in. He's got to play into a devastating board that is only going to be more and more easy. Like, it's going to be easier and easier to deal with as far as Visigourt's reach. And of course, this buffed up unit here, that is, well, no, the reset isn't that important in this situation, but it will be against, I guess it's going to be Jackal last say. I mean, this is looking pretty difficult here for Tailbot.
Yeah, Tailbot's definitely in a tight spot here. One option would be you could perhaps just go ahead with the Baron and reset the Revenant. I mean, it's just points at this point. But I believe what's going to occur here is you're just going to set up the Visigourt, get as many Revenant pings as you can, and I mean, is it worthwhile even to use those the rest of those pings? I suppose. I mean, you don't want to sort of sleep on them, but you have 4 more, which is going to make that Revenant essentially bring that Revenant down to 1 if he wants to expend the rest of those pings and rely on that newest Revenant, the 3-point Revenant, that just to complete that play later. Still, I mean, you're in a hole here, and it's a difficult one to dig your way out of, as Tailbot is just facing down a real tough situation here with just a point deficit that is just so nasty.
He's going for the poison play here because Graydon is susceptible to Baron in this situation. So if he was, and he didn't have the, well, no, he did have the coins for it, but probably just better off to go for the poison in this case. Get a ton of extra coins. You over profit a little bit, but you get the biggest Sea Jackal possible. But the Baron is just the answer needed. Or sorry, the Baron is not going to be the answer because it's not going to be last say. But there's just a few too many points here for Demarcation for Tailbot to come back here.
Yeah, there's not enough. That Sea Jackal is going to be a nice little option for him, but again, even with a full bank account, a Sea Jackal does not have that kind of sweet prestige to go ahead and buy his way out of this one, unfortunately, as Tailbot succumbs.
It's showing the world, really, that playing from the comfort of their own home will stop any sort of new player curses here. And you know, these players, they play best at home. We know them from the ladder in a lot of cases, so this is comfortable for them. It's comfortable for us, and here we go. It is going to be Northern Realms taking on Wildcard, an inverted look as the last game.
Yeah, Tailbot has now, he's on the bottom of the screen there on blue coin, and you're correct about yours, about that presumption that this is a great matchup for you know, to come in with that Northern Realms list. Demarcation, again, given the fact that in the Conquest format, if you win with a deck, it essentially just sort of is eliminated from the pool, and you have to win with all your decks. And Tailbot is mulligans there. In terms of proactive plays, I mean, you can go ahead and drop the Mauler there. Uprising, again, is the leader ability that Tailbot's representing. 3 charges of boost an ally by 1, and upon expending all your charges, spawn a Lyrian Scytheman.
Now, so he missed his Bomb Heaver, right? So this means that Demarcation will be able to establish and play Passiflora in this round. So that's a big deal, just alone that the Bomb Heaver is not in Tailbot's hand right now. Demarcation, knowing the Bomb Heaver is a threat, he won't save it for any special time. I'm pretty sure he opens with the Passiflora and is delighted to see that it's going to survive.
And it's not just a matter of whiffing on your Bomb Heaver. You don't even have a royal decree to sort of feel bad about pulling it out to complete that transaction there. And then the Mauler on the front row, I wonder if Demarcation is just kind of wondering, you know, okay, do I lead in with Azar to protect the Passiflora? Do I just go ahead and roll the dice on this? But you can probably assume that Tailbot would never mulligan away at Bomb Heaver and might actually be hunting for one.
For sure. And he had the Azar answer as well. You see Falibor in the hand. He was ready. He was ready to see it. So now we're just going to see if we're going to see it on Demarcation side in this round or not. I am almost certain we will, and I think that this will be a turning point in this match. Hopefully, I mean, Tailbot's obviously playing an excellent deck anyway, and usually when it comes down to these scenarios, they are producing points that you can't interact with, so you are able to remove some of that value, of course. But I think that Passiflora will be playing a huge part in this round as Tailbot decides what will be the next play here. The Adernian Mauler all set up. He could follow up with Kira, perhaps, if he wanted to put on a lot of ticking points with the lamp. But that would be far too much commitment when you have the Syntron Enchantress in hand. Certainly. So having the answer with Falibor, having the answer to Azar and missing the Bomb Heaver, we have yet to see the mental toll it will take, if it will even happen. I think this will be the last thing I say about it. But I think that we have seen possibly a counter miss at this point. But it doesn't mean that there isn't some great cards here. We see Adalia into the Vanguard with the reinforcements for more Vanguards. Voimir will cap it all off with a ton of extra points as just another innocent Blind Eyes is played here. Street Urchins.
Worth noting as well, they are Blind Eyes, which are cards that do trigger the Passiflora chapters of that scenario. And if we're taking a look at Demarcation's list, what other Blind Eyes are there? Well, we do have one Sly Seductress. You do have, I believe, let's see, who else is that? Adriano is also part of the party as well. So, spending two of those Blind Eyes right out of the way, you only need two to actually trigger the Passiflora. Again, as you can see there, Adriano the Mink is all of the above. He's a human, he's an agent, he's a blind eye, he's everything you want to be and more. And getting the triggers on the Passiflora and is important. So you want to make sure you have those cards to get them going. And you're discussing earlier, Dane, about you have a lot of these. You were so close to having the options, to having the answers. You have. You might not have the Bomb Heaver, but you don't even have the Royal Decree, even though you have the Falibor to deal with the Defender. And in this case, you have the Adalia, you have the Caravan, you have the reinforcements, but you don't have the Drog in this case. So you're always just like
Voimir. I think Voimir is going to be able to catch a little bit there, catch a little bit of extra value if it comes down to a Tailbot having to play into those Vanguards. So you use it for various reasons. I think that it has a lot of great application in blocking Triss Telekinesis with Lacerate in a lot of cases. But also you can play some mind games maybe with Voidmere because you expect that it's going to be played on the Revenants, but in a lot of cases playing it on the Vanguards could prevent more point loss here.
There we go. The maxing out of the coins brings in the Flying Redanian. And the Flying Redanian, again, is a card that, upon the Horde ability, Horde is an ability that triggers when you have that X amount of coins in your bank. And the Horde, in this case, is on turn end, summon this from the deck and or graveyard. And the Flying Redanian just flies out of the deck, depositing itself right next to those Urchins, and a swift pass by Tailbot, in this case, with a very comfortable lead, and the Vitality ticking on those two other cards in the front row means that this is going to have to be some pretty slick math for Demarcation to make sure that he's getting ahead where he needs to be. He does have spenders on the board to really sort of make sure that he's getting just enough points, but he's got to factor in he has to factor in that he's not just down 14 points, he's technically down 18 points with the double tick of the Vitality.
Yeah, this is a lot of points to make up here, but I really like Tailbot getting out of this round right now, because if he believes that the key is stopping Passiflora, he can't do it this round. He hasn't seen Passiflora yet. Maybe I'll just dip. That could be part of the thought process, but generally though, Northern Realms does have a lot of power, being able to set up and drop. They are hard to bleed, as we have seen very much in this match, in this series, in this whole tournament so far. Northern Realms has been playing a very hard bleed game here, and now just seeing, as we saw in the last game, Tailbot kind of throw an Azar to the wind, knowing that Falibor is going to eat it up. He just wants to take, I guess, a little bit of carryover coins here and get there into round two. And this is match point once again for Demarcation. Tailbot up against the wall.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, this is where you got to make your stand, and it's going to see how confident Demarcation is about getting, bleeding here. He's going to toss the Fist Tech Trafficker, looking for something a little better. There's a Spender that he's got now going with the Sea Jackal. The other Fist Tech Trafficker is going to follow suit, and another Sea Jackal. Okay, so we figured out that that is the cheat code. If you toss a Fist Tech Trafficker in this game, you're going to find a Sea Jackal. And without Azov,
No Heaver, no Decree.
yeah, this is going to be tough. And Tailbot's kind of, you can see him kind of, I don't want to say he's confused, but he's definitely a little concerned about what just happened. So if Demarcation wants to go, and he's going for it, Passiflora is going to come out without any protection from Azar. And, you can answer. Tailbot is going to have to spot check some of these problems on the board. Passiflora again is a scenario which is going to spawn the next chapter for each time you play a blind guy.
I love the premium. The dude in the back, he's like the clapping guy. Yeah, I love it. I love the art in this game so much. I think that, I think every Gwent tournament should have some sort of huge art appreciation. Today, it's Passiflora's dancing elf
that's
in the
what
back.
we're missing at the after party of Gwent Masters. That's not occurring. Is essentially that is Passiflora for us. Is after Gwent Masters, that's usually what occurs. Is there's a big party that we throw, and I'm usually the one in a skimpy bikini bottom, just dancing around out of my mind. But back to the game, because what's going on right now is the fact that Tailbot does not have the bomb heater, and Demarcation knowing that now is just feeling like, okay, this is going to be pretty decent because I have I'm going to be able to go ahead and play what I need to play, and Tailbot is already sensing.
He still has to choose. Like, it's not going to be easy to get all the points. Passiflora really, really helps. I think that the fact that there's no bomb heaver means Demarcation is more interested in staying in this round where maybe he otherwise wouldn't be. But there is still, Tailbot has an excellent hand. Tailbot has reinforcements on the Vanguards he just dropped for Drog, Falibor. He also has, now we're in a different world where Savola isn't immediately countered by Vincent, but of course, there are still some larger units that Vincent will still be able to get like 7 or 8 points on. I think maybe Hammond and Adrian are the highest. But I do believe that this is still not, this is a huge, huge get for Demarcation, now generating money with the scenario on the board and no answer. But Tailbot has the goods, perhaps.
Reinforcement's going to go ahead and get another caravan out. The bonded ability triggers. You've got a 6-point. You got a 3-point with a shield. You got 2 pair on the other side there. I mean, got 2 pair with a 6 kicker on the board. All humans, all waiting to be transformed into their higher, greater form here. And with just the Temple Guard, you could just go ahead and drop those as well. You have another caravan if you need. You have Voimir. So Tailbot's not really in a tough spot, despite the fact that he didn't have the immediate answer to a naked Passiflora without any protection there. And here comes a problem, because Adriano, the maker's going to come in. He's going to go ahead and profit out or spend his tribute cost to generate a brand new Sly Seductress. The final chapter of Passiflora is going to occur, and if all the math was done correctly, you have 9 coins in the bank, and you've got a nice, healthy board with several engine pieces taken away. And Tailbot now has to start maybe worrying just a little bit about how deep this is going to go.
So yeah, I mean, Voimir is looking, it's just looking better and better. Drog can only do so much. The Drog, the change with Rose, and it's, I guess it was so long ago this change was made, but you do have a ceiling on what Drog is able to do for you. And I think that this might actually be, you might just be going for as big and bad as a Voimir he can get, offering one more chance here for Demarcation to stop bleeding here, but why would he? 9 coins, Philippa, double Jackal. Saul hasn't even started his work yet, selling knives or whatever he does.
He shows up at your house with those fantastic steak knives that you can saw through a boot, like you'll ever do that. But there's the Sea Jackal. Is going to make some of those coins start to translate, because again, Imke is going to deposit 2 in the bank, but again, with the ceiling of only 2 coins that you can get there, you need to be able to translate some of those coins. You don't want to overflow here, because your pockets can only hold 9 coins, so that Sea Jackal is going to be able to actually make space so that Imke can continue to go ahead and put money in the piggy bank. And again, if you're Tailbot, a Voimir here could be potentially okay, but you're running out of options. Eventually, you're going to have to start expending some big cards, making some bigger commitments, but you've got a nice setup. I mean, you have 6 of the same bronze piece, meaning that Voimir comes in as an 11-point gold card, also depositing some armor on all of those pieces. The question is, does he want to drog first and then protect, or does he want to, let's say, Voimir first and then transform the row of humans in the back row?
I have a feeling that Tailbot's going to want to hold on to Drog because he has no shortage of humans. He's going to take the Voimir. This makes his leader potentially, if he wants to use it, if he has to use it, makes it like there's no way Tailbot loses this round. It's really about demarcation. Famous last words, of course, from the caster. But I'm just saying that there's demarcation is forced to now put in expenditure. He is a successful business owner. Look at this. The passive floor, it's booming. He's got all these places to spend his money, and he just keeps making it. So it's favorable to consider. Maybe I want to steal a 7-point card, keep him in this with Philippa. Maybe I want to play the Jackal, spend all my money, and just make another huge set of big units. Vincent can't reset these units. He has a lot going for him here, but Tailbot's hand is very strong. Drog does have the opportunity to still convert a lot of points with Falibor and Vincent. And here comes Saul.
These marvels, they dazzle.
Worth noting here that the placement of Saul is actually important because the way that these points are essentially parsed out is it's left to right on the row. So what's going to occur in this case is that MK is going to deposit 2 coins before Saul triggers his Horde ability. So he's going to go up to 9 before Saul resolves the Horde ability. So the Horde, so with 9 coins in the bank, Saul goes up to 7. And that's probably going to tick for a while. As you can see, the placement is just right. The Jackal can go ahead, spend 2 coins to boost, and MK is going to put those 2 coins back. Saul's going to boost for another 3. You've got a passive 5-point engine just like that. That is a filthy occurrence. But Tailbot, again, is going to have to sort of figure out what's the cleverest way to get out of this. He still has pieces. He's got very powerful pieces, frankly. But it's just a matter of how you want to do this to maximize not only staying in this round, but also perhaps keeping pieces that you might need to win the next round. And worth noting as well, all 3 charges of the leader ability still intact. I feel like Demarcation might not relent until he sees those put on the board.
I mean, he's got to be careful though, because he is playing into a situation where a reset will be a huge turn. And this is a situation where the reset can also be applying a bleed. If Tailbot just needs that extra point, he will be able to do that with his leader. His leader does seal the deal for sure. And holding on to stuff just like Drog and Falibor, it's not, and Vincent in some cases. Vincent enables Drog, Vincent enables the Revenant. There is still like a pretty, there's a wide array of combos that are still available to Tailbot. Demarcation is trying to take all those combinations and all those possibilities. Like right now, Demarcation would love to get into a point where he knew Baron would not take it. And that would probably put himself in a nice comfort spot. And the way he's holding on to his coins leads me to believe, yeah, maybe he is not relenting in any way at all. He might hold on to Philippa, or he might hold on to Hammond, but Philippa, I think, is coming in here to steal something.
Oh no, the pass comes through otherwise. Again, the passive points, it's a 15-point deficit, but keep in mind Saul's going to tick for 3. The passive floor Peaches is going to tick for an extra 1 as well, so that needs to be factored in for Tailbot. It's not as clean cut as that 15-point deficit may seem, but you do have a myriad of pings.
12 points on the reset. 12 points on the reset and 7 points on the pings. That should get you there.
Worth noting as well that if you do go ahead and use those Revenant pings on the Flying Redanian, the Flying Redanian is just going to show up at the end of the turn anyways, right? So
he needed to remove Saul from the picture, but he has a little bit extra here.
Yeah, we've got some extra space here, so this is all right. Okay, so I mean, Tailbot feels pretty good, I would imagine, because he managed to actually retain all 3 of his leader charges. He has Falibor and he has Vincent. Those are 2 potentially impactful cards. On the other side of the board, there's the Bomb Heaver.
Those draws are not good for Tailbot, very specifically. He also is playing into Philippa. Demarcation was able to take carryover coins, so all of these things at 4 are not very are not very desirable, as they could just get stolen. That's the Radovich Royal Guard. I mean, Philippa could just come on in and take it if that is what pleases Demarcation. He does have a Peller for a Purify and Poison, but it does look like there may be... Well, I think he's not going to keep the Peller at all.
I mean, in a perfect world over here, you could go ahead and maybe put all your eggs in that the Trident Infantry basket there. Unfortunately for that is that if he does not put it to a degree or a level where there's enough coins to protect against the Philippa steal, that is definitely a Philippa steal, because you drop that Trident Infantry, the Enchantress maybe put some vitality on it, and then Philippa comes down, swipes that back to your side of the board, and suddenly it's a nightmare for you, because it's not just the boost that it's getting, but it's the subsequent damage that the Trident Infantry is going to be just throwing around.
Demarcation's feeling the pressure. It looks like he's actually in an oven at the moment. So the temperature's slowly been rising since the beginning of this match, and we have reached a fever pitch. Here comes, now I love this boost right here, keeping it out of Philippa range, very crafty. The leader would have to be spent to get extra coins in this case. But that is probably part of the decision. It also ensures that it's likely to stay boosted throughout. I don't think anything would have actually damaged it here. I think Borsodi hasn't been seen yet on either, or hasn't been seen on Demarcation's side.
No, he's sitting there.
He's still in there. You got to play around pings though a little bit. It would make it a little bit harder. Borsodi wouldn't be able to remove it, and Philippa wouldn't be able to steal it. So that was a really important boost right there.
Some tough options here. I mean, you could lead with the poison, perhaps. You don't. I mean, even the Hammond.
It's so rough because I think Philippa's going to steal something with vitality on it too. I have a feeling.
Definitely, I feel like that would most definitely be the target. And dropping the bounty on the Royal Guard in the back row there means that Tailbot's going to have to drop another card here. I mean, he's going to have to play proactively. His proactive plays in this case are basically the Trident Infantry. You could go ahead and maybe drop the vitality points on the Radovich Royal Guard, but then again, you're just going to probably steal it with Philippa and get not only the vitality and the base points, but also the order ability. But now you're dropping the Trident Infantry, protecting it at 6, and I mean,
but isn't that a nice steal right here potentially?
Right.
You could steal, and I believe, let me just check Demarcation. Does he have something like, here comes...
If he has the Blacksmith, I mean, that would be great, but I don't think Demarcation plays the Blacksmith.
If he has any opportunities here for... Okay. Yeah, this looks like it's a tough position for Tailbot for sure. Do you think that throwing the... I mean, the Peller was only ever... I mean, probably was fine to do that, but I feel like the Peller actually had a lot of like application, whereas what he ended up getting, I mean, he was looking for something very specifically, valuing the Peller the lowest. Here comes Philippa. He's going to grab this Trident Infantry. Always playing into Philippa. That was Tailbot's biggest issue there. When Demarcation passed with the full coin purse and Philippa, it definitely became a lot more difficult to play into this.
The Peller, I feel, I mean, you're always most likely, well, maybe not. I was going to think that maybe you're saving that Falibor for last to avoid allowing it to be susceptible to something like poison. I feel like you might want to roll on the Peller and hope to play Falibor late, like last, in order to preserve it and protect it from a poison play. But you still have the wild card ability. That has not been expended yet. So you're probably going to get poisoned either way. And more coins are going to show up. Demarcation has his his wild card ability to go ahead and pull a card out of the deck and gain the coins, pair it up with the Fistek Trafficker, perhaps grabbing that poison. You still have the Vivaldi Bank too, and Hammond, which represents 8 points if played in a timely way.
Yeah.
So
like Griffin's going to cash in that bounty, or Vivaldi Bank is going to cash in that bounty. The coins are going to be spent by whatever is not taken. So then you have Borsodi on the other side for either the bank or for a leader. So it just looks like Tailbot is standing in a pile of rubble at the moment. It's looking like there's just going to be a lot of answers here. Tailbot isn't going to get a good hit with Vincent. Vincent's looking like it could be only 4 points, 6 points at the greatest.
Oh, and that's the best Tailbot could have hoped for in terms of converting Vincent. You're probably going to get something decent here. I think you drop Vincent, drop the Hammond down to 1, and then I think you have to use your leader abilities in this case. I mean,
just hope it's enough.
Yeah, and hope it's enough, because then at the very least your Falibor connects with Philippa, you get a second one on the Hammond, and then you can drop the extra 2 points wherever you please. But it's going to be tough. I think that this is the Vincent on the Hammond, and then use your leader ability to just maximize what you got going. He might save it, we'll see, but I think you have to use your leader ability here. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you at least can boost up the Citron Enchantress before she takes the final hit. Only 10 points separate, and that bounty is glaring. Leader ability still available for Demarcation. Potentially, the Fistek Trafficker is a little on the low side, but that Graydon combo, Borsodi could potentially being a part of it. It's looking like it's Demarcation's game to lose at this point.
He's going to use his ability here to go ahead and double poison the Radovid's Royal Guard in the back row, finishing the I guess going with the Scytheman instead, poisoning that up, and then using
see what's in the bank. I mean, he had enough money to see everything here, so it's Graydon right at the top. Big money.
He is right there.
Over profit, perhaps. Might as well pay the tribute.
Go for it. Might as well. I mean, again, it boosts by the base value.
Oh,
you
shit.
Still have,
And the poison is 9 points. The money has nowhere to go. Was I totally wrong about this?
I don't think you're totally wrong. I mean, it's going to be a
poison. The money has nowhere to go.
The bleeding is going to factor in. This is going to be a 1-point win for Demarcation, connecting with that final point.
Oh my goodness, this was so close with almost a full purse. He wins by a point, leaving all that money on the table. Wow, it got a lot closer. What is Foltest drinking, by the way? That neon purple stuff he pours out. Tailbot being eliminated by Demarcation in a best of 5 that had a tie, so we still saw 5, but 3-2-1. There's Demarcation. He's going to get ready. I'm going to ask him a few questions for sure.